Every game designer starts small. It takes time to build the skills and teams necessary to make the biggest blockbusters, but sometimes a small staff can be what's required to create something game-changing. Such a focused approach often leads to games defined by single mechanics, and such titles have more than once literally changed genres. Valve Software's Portal is such a game, one taking the conventions of the first-person shooter and turning them on their head. And it was all the result of a student project, better than most AAA games. Our story starts in Redmond, Washington, on the east side of Seattle, at the Digipin Institute of Technology, a school dedicated to the art of game development. Every year, the curriculum at Digipin requires its students to form teams and create games from scratch, using the latest skills that they learned during their education. Freshmen at the university only need to create text-based games, while seniors are expected to craft fully 3D works. And in the mid-2000s, a group of 7 students teamed up to create such a game. The team were all graduating soon and decided that they wanted to use their senior project as an opportunity to create something special to empower their resumes. They also set their ambitions at a reasonable level, only aiming to create a small game with a simple and unique premise. This was going to be a student project on a harsh timetable with incredibly limited resources after all, not a AAA masterpiece. And after throwing around a few ideas, they settled on one that they felt would stand out. A game based around building bridges in 3D space with player-made portals. This eventually evolved into Narbacular Drop, a game where players found themselves in the shoes of Princess Noni's, a moniker chosen because she was unable to jump. Imprisoned after a run-in with an otherworldly demon, Noni's must use her prison's built-in portal creation ability to craft dimensional doorways on the floors, walls, and ceilings, defeat her captor, and escape the dungeon. Narbacular Drop was completed in 2005 and released on Windows as freeware. Comically, the word narbacular doesn't actually exist, and was chosen only because it felt both eye-catching and may help with the game's search engine optimization. The title was rough, as was to be expected, but more importantly, its concept was unique and compelling. The interconnected portals, identified by their glowing blue and orange eyes, combined with Noni's inability to jump, allowed for creative and inventive level design, and many of these aspects would live on in Narbacular Drop's inevitable successor. Every year, Digipin held a career fair for their students to show off their work, and oftentimes industry professionals would stop by looking to recruit new talent for their companies. When Narbacular Drop was shown at such a career fair, it drew the eye and interest of Robin Walker, a developer from Valve Software browsing the event for new and clever ideas. Walker dissected Narbacular Drop then and there on the show floor, laying out to the development team what he felt they'd done wrong and what they could have done better, from their level design to their mechanical systems. He was especially critical of the art direction, calling it too brown and comparing it unfavorably to Quake. Regardless, as he left to look at other games, Walker left the team with his business card and contact information, should they ever wish to talk to him again. After the fair, the team wished to enter Narbacular Drop in a competition to gain more attention, and they contacted Walker seeking specific advice on how to improve the title. However, instead of offering them any written words of wisdom, to the team's surprise, Walker invited them to Valve's headquarters in nearby Bellevue, Washington, so that they might get a multitude of perspectives from the company's designers. Thrilled, the students accepted the offer, expecting the trip just to be the highlight of their senior year. They were wrong. As the team set up their presentation in a conference room at Valve's headquarters, they were hopeful that a few of Valve's designers would join Walker for their demo to give them feedback. However, slowly the entire conference room filled, and right before the team began, Valve's co-founder Gabe Newell entered the room and took a seat right in front of the presentation. Understandably nervous, the Narbacular team's de facto lead, Kim Swift, began their presentation while a colleague played the game behind her. However, just 10 minutes into the presentation, Newell stopped them, explaining that he'd seen enough. Horrified, the team began to wonder what had gone wrong, enough so that Newell wouldn't even politely sit through more than 10 minutes. But instead of criticism, Newell stated that he was impressed and asked them what they planned on doing after graduating from Digipin. When they said they had no immediate plans, Newell immediately offered the entire Narbacular Drop team jobs at Valve, and the opportunity to create a full version of their game based on portal mechanics using the company's source engine. The newly Valve-employed team began to work on what would become Portal in July of 2005. Swift was officially made lead on the new project, but also took on the role of a level designer. Swift would later say that working at Valve right out of Digipin required some adjustment, but also credits the experience for making the entire Narbacular Drop team better developers. In turn, this helped them overcome many of the early hurdles of development, the most notable being the transference of the portal mechanic from Narbacular Drop into the dense and complex code of the source engine. In the end, their solution, or at least a very basic layman's description of it, was to tell the source engine that every portal was a temporary hole in whatever wall it was placed on, and that the geometry on the other side was connected to another part of the map. The physics of the hole then fell into place as the team tirelessly tinkered with the code throughout development. Valve's internal culture and approach to development was also incredibly different than what the team was used to. A cornerstone of Valve's process was constant playtesting and tweaking based on the results. When creating Narbacular Drop, the student team did not have the time nor the resources to constantly playtest and missed several bugs because of it. Playtesting on Portal began literally the moment they had a version of the game up and running, even if it was just a crude rendition of the title's first room. Every single week, or any time a significant addition or change was put in place, Valve brought in someone new to test the game from beginning to end. And instead of giving them a questionnaire after completion, the team observed the tester while they were playing the game, taking notes then and there. This process gave the design team live feedback. They could tell exactly when, where, and why a player was having fun or getting frustrated. This in turn allowed them to be objective about the game's content, gave them ideas on how to solve problems that popped up, and even provided inspiration for new puzzles. It also allowed them to get to the point where nearly every part of the game was polished to near perfection, from its level and puzzle design to the character traits of their main protagonist, Shell. First Room was so well constructed that it conveyed the concept of the portal mechanic quickly and efficiently just by having a unique look, as well as several noticeable objects like a bed or radio. One major piece of feedback given by the testers was that the experience became dry after about half an hour of play. There was no context to the puzzles or why they were completing them. To add flavor to the experience, the Portal team recruited internal Valve writer Eric Wolpaw to create a narrative for their title. The game's general tone was established just 1 week after bringing Wolpaw on board. Wolpaw wrote some simple dialogue christening the prison the player starts out in as a relaxation vault and recorded it with a text-to-speech program. The team fell in love with this witty, comical, and sinister tone, but decided to keep looking for a more fleshed-out narrative to put on top of it. However, during playtesting, it became clear that the dark and comedic commentary on their puzzle solving was enough motivation for players to keep testing, and the story was instead refocused around this disembodied voice. The result was a character called GLaDOS, a deceptively emotional robotic overseer with a tragic and fascinating backstory revealed as the franchise continued forward. She was voiced by Ellen McLean in the game's final release. To match this more simple narrative, the aesthetic of Portal was redesigned into something sterile and modular, with the player awakening in the testing environment of Aperture Laboratories, which was slowly broken down and decayed as more and more puzzles were completed and the true nature of the facility was revealed. Still, a deeper narrative was hidden in the title's lore. Early on, it was decided to set the game in the same universe as Valve's flagship Half-Life franchise, because the company wanted to leave open the option of including the portal gun in a new Half-Life game. Funny joke, isn't that one? The connection between the two titles would become more overt in the game's sequel. Portal was released on October 9, 2007 after just 2 years in development with a full-time team of 8. It was included in a compilation called the Orange Box alongside Half-Life 2, Team Fortress 2, and 2 expansions for Half-Life 2. Portal received incredible critical acclaim, with praise being heaped upon its writing, unique mechanics, and polished level design. It won over 30 Game of the Year awards. The game's personality also resonated with its players, and popular in-jokes from the game have become part of the internet's collective cultural lexicon. Valve looked at Portal like an experiment, but packing it in with titans like Half-Life and Team Fortress took away a lot of the potential risk of the new game. After all, it was a short, puzzle-based, unestablished IP. Regardless, many look at Portal as the breakout hit of the compilation, and it's not hard to see why. The game is beautiful in its simplicity with its mechanics, its narrative, and its art direction. Portal is proof that AAA publishers can get incredible results by letting new talent and small teams take the wheel and take you somewhere you never expected. In many ways, it was like an indie game being made at one of these AAA publishers, and that's something I hope we get to see more of in the future. Take notice, industry. This is some of the amazing results we can get when we take risks. Portal wasn't the only game that took the conventions of a genre and turned them on their head to create something new. Nintendo did this way back in the 80s with Metroid, which took ideas from Mario and Contra and turned it into an entirely new genre. If you want to hear more about that, click the annotation on screen to go watch our breakdown of Metroid. And don't forget to subscribe to the Theorists for more retrospectives, theories, and cultural analyses. Sorry for my voice this time, I got pretty sick earlier this week. Don't worry about it, I'll be fine. The show must go on, as they say. As always, if you have any suggestions for future videos like this, please send them at me on Twitter at ForestFirst or leave them in the comments below. That's all I got for this week, guys. I'm gonna go lay down. Maybe take some NyQuil.